Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast.
Hey, I got a bone to pick.
Guys, I am so fired up.
Sleep deprived and all, I'm happy to be here.
You probably cut up your hot dog. You don't need it on a bun.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dauster, T.O. and Fanta podcast. Yes, it is the DTF podcast. It is November 27th. It is currently 12:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the only legitimate time zone. My name is Rob Dauster. I got Terrence Oglesby. I got John Fanta with me. We got a lot to talk about, guys. Feast week just finished up. Purdue looks unbelievable. Marquette looks unbelievable. Creighton looks the opposite of unbelievable. We have a lot to get to with all of these games and all of
Villanova.
Villanova looks like, well, I don't want to tease it too much because I know you got a lot to say about Villanova here. We're going to talk all about Feast Week. I'm going to see if I can survive the fact that I got absolutely bodied on Twitter last night. I don't know if you guys saw this.
No.
Did you see it?
No.
All right. We'll wait till the end of the show because I don't think we want to open the show on DePaul.
No,
again,
absolutely
yeah.
I do. What's wrong with DePaul?
So I tweeted something about how DePaul, after losing to Northern Illinois, posted this like graphic on social media that was a picture of the final score, losing by 10 at home, where the background of the shot was nothing but empty seats. Right. And I trolled Blue Demon DJen a little bit because it's one of my favorite things to do is to troll him a little bit. And he responded with a quote tweet of almost word for word when I went at one of the burner accounts that likes to try to break news, who got news wrong. Yeah. Did you guys see that? And he roasted me, and I'm just glad that I survived that. It was brutal. I couldn't. It was one of those ones where someone says something and you got to be like, "Oh shit!" I just got to pretend like I didn't see that. I got to pretend like I haven't opened up Twitter in a day because I cannot respond to that one.
I haven't seen
it. And the sun came up. The sun came up this morning. At the end of the day, it's Twitter, it's X, whatever you want to call it. People are going to say stuff. They're going to say stuff all the time. It comes out, it drops, all that stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, Rob, I'm going to tell you, Blue Demon DJen is down bad enough. He doesn't have to hear any more from us. Don't beat a dead horse. Blue Demon DJen is a dead horse right now. If you're a DePaul fan, if you are a DePaul fan, God bless you. The pain that you've been through, you do not deserve.
Nobody deserves that.
You know what I can't wait for?
DePaul should never be this awful. They should never be in the place that they're in right now.
So never. I was thinking about it, right? And I was circling games a couple weeks ago, just kind of looking through and looking at the future schedule and seeing.
I know what you're going to say.
Where we can go and do Field of 68 live shows from. And one of them was like Purdue, Arizona, and Indianapolis. That would be a massive one. That's the same day as Kansas, Indiana, and Bloomington. Like that would be a massive day. It's too big of a day for us to do, and it doesn't work with the scheduling, but that'd be a massive day if we could do it, right? UConn at Kansas. Massive show. We could find a way to pull it off. There's like a whole bunch of Baylor plays Duke in Madison Square Garden on December 20th. Massive show if we could do it, right? Jimmy V Classic, massive show. You know what one of the ones I circled was? Louisville, DePaul in Chicago at Wintrust Arena on Saturday, December 9th. T.O., you in? We doing it? Field 68 live show?
Let me check my schedule real quick. Let me check my schedule. December 9th. I am, ironically enough, I am available that day.
Okay. So here's the deal. All right. So DePaul is 1-5. They just lost to Northern Illinois. We could talk all day about the deficiencies in the state of the program. But this is worse, okay? This is worse than the score graphic with nobody in the seats. On their men's basketball schedule, they list promotions with games, right? Like a lot of teams do. The DePaul-Louisville game, December 9th, at 1 local time. The promotion of the game is currently House of Blues Day.
It's a fact. He's not making that up. That's real.
Like the movie. Meanwhile,
we need to be there for that.
December 16th against Northwestern has the promotion labeled the biggest game in Chicago. I'm sorry, but this is not. I appreciate you trying to promote and all that, but the House of Blues one, the The jokes write themselves.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I don't know if you saw it, T.O., on Sunday night. Here's a question for you. And I really want you to honestly answer this question as best as you can, okay? Since you're an ACC guy and all, Louisville's an ACC program, okay? Louisville played a game where they needed New Mexico State to get down to 4 players after 6 guys fouled out and their best player didn't play in overtime to be able to hang on and beat them. If I gave you the ability to pick any 4 players that you want in college basketball, could you put together a lineup of 4 guys that were good enough to beat Louisville 4-on-5?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, look, I don't know the answer to that question. And I'm not going to search for an answer for that question. But what I will say about Louisville is this. Hey, a win's a win. Mm-hmm. You beggars can't be choosers at this point. They won 4 games last year. They've already won 3. I see substantial improvement, guys. Hey, must-win game, though, for Louisville. They play Bellarmine next. You have to win that game.
Yes.
You have to win that game. They are right down the road. They're in the A-Sun. You absolutely have to win that game.
Yes. And if they win that game,
lost it last year.
That's what I'm saying. This year has to be a win. Has to be a win. Or else the people like literally right down the road can just mock you for, we're 2 years running now. Bellarmine running Louisville, the city of Louisville. You have to win that.
It's bad enough they got to hear it from the Kentucky fans right now, and Kentucky looks.
Yeah, imagine having to pile on from Bellarmine. And look, and Bellarmine, that's a good program for the level they're at. For the level they're at, it's a good program. However, you got to win that game. Have to.
Yep.
So Tyler Kolek, Jacoby Walter, Dalton Connect or Alex Caravan, and Zach Edey. All right, I'll take those 4.
We're taking those 4, and you think that you got a chance? You think
yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And here's the best part about that. The majority of the team I just listed, they were all in Maui.
Yeah.
They were all there. That's the greatest Maui Invitational ever.
Yeah, so let's get into that. Let's start with this. Before we talk about winners and losers and everything, I just want like your one biggest takeaway from Feast Week. And I'll open it up just to kind of give you guys an idea of what I'm thinking of here is that for me, Maui Invitational always delivers, right? Always unquestionably delivers. It was better than we've ever seen it this year. It was unbelievable. I had so much fun watching that event. So jealous Mike Miller was able to go out there. By the way, Field of 68 Daily. Make sure you subscribe. It's less than $1 a day to be able to support those writers. The Battle for Atlantis. That pretty much always delivers at this point. Villanova was awesome in that event. We're going to talk a lot about that. I know T.O. has some takes on them. North Carolina looked pretty damn good for North Carolina. And I just think it's so important for those 2 tournaments to be really, really good during that week, especially Maui, because Maui is the Monday to Wednesday. It's after a football Sunday, right? Then you have 3 days where there's not all that much going on as people are getting ready for Thanksgiving. Then you got to compete with the football on Thursday, some football on Friday, football on Saturday, football on Sunday. But those 3 days, Monday through Wednesday, that's huge for college basketball to be that important. We set records for viewership on the Field of 68 for those 3 days, right? To have that be relevant and be big is just so big for the sport. I loved seeing the Maui Invitational. I love seeing the Battle for Atlantis pay off and deliver. And it was a great week of college hoops. And I think Feast Week is so important, fan. That was my biggest takeaway. We need this for college basketball.
Feast Week is the closest that we get in terms of chaos to March Madness because you're playing every day or you're playing every other day. Mm-hmm. And it is the real start of the season. Do I think that the timeline of college basketball should be changed? No, because I'll tell you this much. When you play the first couple of weeks, by the time you get to this past week, you have an idea of who you are as a team. And that's why Feast Week's so big, because you've played a couple of games. Some teams have been tested, others have not. And guys, what's the only way to find out about yourselves? And what's the only way for us to find out about you as a team? It's if we get to watch you play more and more and more games. In December, we actually find out less about some of these teams because of finals. And between like December 10th and the 18th or 19th, it's kind of barren with the exception of that Saturday. So December is not as wild as a month. We have some elite matchups, but Feast Week is huge. It is such a gift in college basketball. It's one of the best things the sport has going for it. And guys, there were some teams that finished in the back half, okay, of Battle for Atlantis and Maui and other events. There were some teams that played well and lost. UCLA played well and finished 7th at the Maui Invitational. That's how great the Maui was. It is a gift. It is a gift for college basketball that we get. UCLA finished 6th. That we get this level of competition. Feast Week is awesome, awesome, awesome in every way. It should be unchanged. And you're right, Rob, especially in a non-PK 80, 85, because we've gotten used to the Phil Knight Invitationals as well. This was back to the roots. As much as the PK has been an awesome event, Portland doesn't have the same vibe. When the PK goes on like it did last year, they take some of those teams that would be in Maui or Atlantis and take them for there. Nothing against the PK, but there's just not as much of a vibe in Portland. Even in Honolulu, did you see the crowd at those games in the semis and the final? It was unfreaking believable. I love Feast Week. Never change it.
Yep. T.O.?
No, the only thing I would think is I would kind of change is like that first week. I would love to go back to that 24 hours of hoop thing just to kind of start it off. I understand the Champions Classic moving back a week. You kind of want to know your teams. But this is when the original start date was, right? Like right at the end of November as opposed to the beginning of it. And this is, like Fanta said, the kickoff of the whole thing. And I remember when the Battle for Atlantis first started, it was like, man, it's weird. They kind of have these pop-up bleachers and they're shooting in a weird spot, and it's kind of a weird place to do it. And they just continue to bring in some of the best teams, and the Baha Mar too is catching up. What they have down there, is it the Bahamas Jam or something? Like there's a lot more good tournaments now, and they're being sought out just because I don't feel like you lose a lot by playing these games. And I think the way the metrics are concerned right now, you're going to see a lot of big name against big name games, especially in these MTEs, because you don't necessarily lose a whole lot by losing some of these quad one games. So So you should play these high marquee games. Like, now you have the ACC SEC challenge coming up. That's going to be fun. You're going to have, some of these other league by league competitions. Coming up. So we're falling into something right before finals, before we kind of hit a lull when the kids are on campus by themselves. This is the best part of college basketball season, outside of, the big dance and all the conference tournaments at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I loved it. It always delivers. And I think more than any other year, like the Marquette Purdue game, we recorded our last pod before that game was played. Like, that was a great college basketball game. And it happened so long ago that's kind of hard to it feels like it happened 10 years ago and it happened 4 days ago. But that was a great college basketball game, from how well Purdue played in the first half to the response from Marquette to the different battles that you have between the matchups and the way the two teams played. That was a great college basketball game.
Yep. And I thought it was really cool. You saw those conflicting styles, and we're not talking Purdue right now, but I thought it showed a lot about their evolution, because Marquette throws a lot of different things at you. And they're pressuring, they're not pressuring, they're zoned, they're not zoned, they're running and jumping, they're not jumping, they're playing. To me, that showed a lot about Purdue and their ability to play against different schemes. And then they play Tennessee, where they're big and physical at points, and then Braden Smith plays awesome against Zakai Ziegler, and then they switch over big on him, and then he continues to play well. I thought, as far as anything is concerned, I thought Purdue showed about as well as anybody. And I understand that, they're top 3, but their concerns last year and over the last couple of tournaments has been how they've been able to handle pressure against smaller teams. Well, you saw what they did against Marquette, who I would argue they're going to score 80 points a game no matter what. And they were able to figure those things out and still score up there.
Mm-hmm.
We need to change the narrative today on Purdue, and we need to give them their flowers. We can focus on everything in March when that time rolls around. The fact of the matter is this, gentlemen, dating back to November 28th of last season, okay? So for basically the last 365 days, it's 362 exactly. For the last year, Purdue has been a top 5 team in college basketball. They enter the top 5 after winning the PK 85 last year. They have not been out of the top 5 of the AP poll since. Mm-hmm. And as we talk today, they're going to be the number 1 team in the country, as well they should be. Mm-hmm. They absolutely are the unanimous top team in the country. And they are because of how they went through the grinder of this Maui Invitational. Let's face it, if you were significantly off, you were not going to win. If you were off, you were not going to win. Just ask Kansas against Marquette. Kansas didn't have it, and they got beat by double digits. That really was not a game as it went on. Marquette had them beat. And in that final, for Purdue, first off, you get past Gonzaga, who put together a valiant effort. By the way, Anton Watson had a great week. But you beat them. Then you move on, and you get to the semifinals. And guys, I mean, when you look at Tennessee and how tough they are and how much of that was a slug of a game. But Purdue said, you're calling us soft? You're going to call us soft? You don't think we have the stamina to win these types of games? I thought, Rob, that Purdue showed a lot in that effort. Was it ugly? Was it physical? Was it a Tennessee-style game? Yes, it was. But Purdue showed they can win a game in a variety of ways. They showed that Lance Jones, Miles Colvin, those guys that they've brought in have given them something. And I like that against Tennessee, it was Fletcher Lawyer. Against Marquette, it was Braden Smith. Those guys are more mature. They're better off as a result. And what Zach Edey is doing is absolutely ridiculous to a point that I think a lot of people are now bored by everything he does. But we are watching greatness right now. Let's relish this. Let's relish that it's not like, let's appreciate the fact that it's not coming from Duke or Kansas or Kentucky or Carolina. It's coming out of West Lafayette, Indiana. I hope that it lives up to it in March, but right now, give the Boilermakers all the flowers that they deserve. You just said it. We are watching greatness.
Yeah, and the thing that I love about Zach Edey is that he is a great ambassador for the sport of college basketball, right? Like, well, we've been to multiple Purdue games now, Fanta, and to see how much time he spends afterwards, making sure he signs autographs for everyone. Let's put it into perspective, right? We went to the Ohio State game last year, and he spent quite literally an hour signing shirts, shoes, hats, taking selfies for every fan that stayed and waited for him. He does that he did that last year after every home game. He doesn't stay for more than an hour. Like it takes him about 10 minutes this year to be able to get through it because he signed everything for basically every Purdue fan. Like he got them all last year. And he's like, he went out. So when we had him on the show, when we went to the Xavier game, right?
Yep.
He came in and sat down with us and he was like, I'm here quickly because I waited to sign for everybody, but I guess I already signed. He was out there looking for people to sign autographs for. Great kid, great ambassador for the program. And I will say this, we can talk about it more in the future because we got to see him win. But I think the changes, the additions with Lance Jones, the improvement of Braden Smith, I think this team is much more suited to being able to make a run in March. As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today. I will tell you this though, and I'm going to pivot to who won Feast Week because I think Marquette to me was the biggest winner out of Feast Week. And this is my argument why, even though they lost. I don't know how many people viewed them as like a legitimate national title contender heading into the Maui Invitational, right? I think most people probably thought that they would lose to Kansas. I think most people probably looked at them and said, hey, this is the team that lost to Michigan State. This is the team that got beat in the second round of the tournament. This is Marquette. This is Shaka. They don't make deep runs, blah, 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 whatever. They beat the brakes off a really good Kansas team. And before anyone says anything, Kansas has a win over Kentucky. Kansas has a win over Tennessee, which are 2 top 10 teams. Kansas is missing one player. Like they probably need to figure out what they're doing in the 2 spot, but they're still Bill Self. They're still Hunter Dickinson. They're still DeJuan Harris, and they have a lot of good wins. And Marquette just handled them easily. Then they go and they take on a Purdue team where Purdue made 9 of the first 11 threes, including a 3-quarter court shot. And Marquette found a way to have the ball with a chance to tie at the end of regulation. I thought they were very, very impressive. I thought that they basically played the best team in college basketball to a 1-possession game. They can win a national title, T.O. To me, that was the biggest winner, is that they proved to everyone they can win a national title.
Yeah. And they can score on any given night, and they've got so many guys that can do it, even on nights where Tyler Kolek is in foul trouble or something like that, or David Joplin steps up one night. The next day, it's Cam Jones starting things off with a flurry, and then Chase Ross has to play well the next game in order for them to kind of keep going. There's just so much scoring on that team, and I love the fact that they switch so many things up. And I'm telling you that the unsung guy for that team is Oso Ighodaro, man. Like, he just figures it out for you. He's able to guard. Your offense stagnates. He pops right up there to the elbow, and then they're right into what they do. They're so incredibly difficult to defend because they hardly ever call set plays. Mm-hmm. And in the modern college game, that is not necessarily the case. In the Big East, that is not necessarily the case. There's a lot of set plays called, and it's really difficult to scout. You just have to be extremely fundamentally sound for the entire 30 seconds, and that's extremely difficult for young people to do. They're running an NBA offense because they have a 5-man in Ighodaro that can just make decisions, and they never get stuck. That's the most befuddling thing. They never get stuck. There's always an exit. There's always a point of they can always enter into what they want to do, and then things just start to flow organically on their own. And they have guards that are willing to let it go. Like Tyler Kolek, I can't tell you how many times I've seen him get the ball on an inbounds pass and just throw it cross court because Cam Jones is over there. And for no other reason than the ball changes sides of the floor. Cam hasn't touched it in a couple of possessions. I'm just going to let him dribble it up. They're so smart, so unselfish. And Ighodaro is kind of the unsung guy there.
Yep.
They are a momentum-based team in that when they get one, it trickles.
Sure.
So the hardest game for them to play in was the UCLA game. You know why? Everybody expected them to win that game and that they would have it. But you're facing a Mick Cronin team at full strength that's upset-minded and that's going to play their asses off. And by the way, I was really impressed with Sebastian Mack. I was impressed with Andrews. And I thought UCLA looked really good in that game. And we talked about it last week. And their upside's there. But once Marquette got through that, guys, it tells us everything we need to know that Tyler Kolek shot 3 for 9. He turned the ball over 4 times. He did not play well against Kansas. And Marquette won by 14. Part of the reason why Marquette is a national championship contender is that last year they needed Kolek and Omax Prosper and Cam Jones to be great, to beat the best. This team's deeper. And Shaka Smart's willingness to play his guys, some reserves, in tough spots was huge this week. I think Sean Jones is very much improved and much more comfortable at making the right plays. I thought that he had a really nice showing this past week. Chase Ross defensively had something. He's gotten better offensively. He had 12 and 6 in the win over Kansas. Jones and Ross, and as Ben Gold continues to figure it out, but even the freshmen, Trey Norman and Zayd Lowry, there's potential there. The fact is, for Kolek to only make 3 shots and turn the ball over 4 times against Kansas, if we talked about that before the game, he would have said, how much did Kansas win by and what did DeJuan Harris do? Marquette didn't win. They commanded Kansas. And against Purdue, you go down, right, Terrence? And Rob, you go down in a game to Purdue. In my head, I'm thinking, God, what do I have to do from 3 to get back in the game? Like, how many threes do I have to make to get back in the game? Marquette shot 5 for 17 from 3 against Purdue, and they were right there at the end. You know why? Kolek and Jones, their ability to drive the lane and be patient. They didn't always go up to score. They'd sometimes take you in a figure 8, roll right around back to the center of the key, and then deliver a pass or go up with a shot. But the biggest revelation of this past week for Marquette was Oso Ighodaro.
He's a monster, man.
He showed he's one of the best bigs in the country.
He's a monster. All right, so I had Marquette as the biggest winner of Feast Week. Who did you guys have?
I had Villanova. Congratulations to Kyle Neptune, man. And how about Villanova being 9-0 in that event all time?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like those guys aren't at the craps tables. Those guys aren't at the craps tables. Chris Mack told a great story with you the other day, Fanta, where like a team they were going to play, their players were out playing craps until 4 a.m.
Yes.
And then he comes out and hits 6 threes. Villanova's not out there.
Hey, did you see Alan Ray's tweet and Colin Gillespie's tweet? They were talking about how like there was they wouldn't be able to go out when they were on those events, and Colin Gillespie was like, yeah, we used to have a plan. Me and Phil Booth, we would bring an iPad. That iPad would get confiscated, then we would pull out the backout iPad that we could have when we were on the trips, because Jay Wright would take their phones and iPads and stuff to make them like interact, so they would always have the backup technology to be able to use when they were on those trips.
Bad culture, guys. No, it's amazing like what talent will do. And you know what? There's a couple times during their game. Fanta, which game was it that we were talking about? And I was like, why in the world have they not called the timeout?
Carolina.
It was against Carolina, because Carolina was getting that ball out of the net and they were pushing it and they were getting layups. It was fast, and it was like it really felt that momentum kind of got in Carolina. It went in Carolina's favor, and they didn't call timeouts, and they just kind of let their guys figure it out from there. It was unique. It was fun. They're huge. TJ Bamba fits Villanova. Tyler Burton fits Villanova. Mm-hmm. And I remember a couple of years ago, Villanova played at UCLA, and the biggest concern for Villanova fans was, do we really have something at the 5 with Eric Dixon? He's undersized. He does all this. And I'm sitting there watching. I was like, guys, he's not flashy. He doesn't do a ton, but the sucker's never in the wrong spot defensive. He's never in the wrong spot. And he's so physical when he plays. He's undersized. He's long, but he's not going to yell at you, but he's just going to be in the right spot. He has improved. He's shooting runaway threes, and he adds another dimension to Villanova at that 5 spot, to where now they're even more wide open, to where more than they've ever been. So look, they're playing well. They're moving the ball well. They're like sized, so it provides a lot of switching opportunities. And every one of those Villanova dudes looks like, they could play wide receiver in NFL, like as far as body size is concerned, because they're big, they're strong, they're switchable. Talent helps. And whenever you play a system like Villanova plays, which is the same system Jay Wright had, when you play that system, it's more so, let me get the right guys with the ball in their hands, and then let's create closeouts. And now that Dixon's making shots, buddy, like they are difficult to guard. And I thought this was a huge weekend, not just for the program Villanova, but for Kyle Neptune to be able to get that 3 in 3 days. I thought it was tremendous. It's got to give them their flowers.
So a Big East head coach texted me last night. Very surprising. And it wasn't from one of the bottom teams in the league. Wasn't even from a former Field of 68 cast member who's now a Big East head coach. It was from a random head coach in the league who texted me late last night and said, I'm watching Villanova. Oh no, ... They found it.
Yep.
Glad we got them last year. They found it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hope you got your Villanova jokes out of the way last year. Talent wins.
Yes.
And they cleaned up in the transfer portal. They spent in and around $3 million on the roster. That's been reported. Mike Jensen had that in a Philadelphia Inquirer report. That's not news, but if you haven't heard it, yeah, Villanova, they had to make drastic changes because the expectation is that they're going to make deep NCAA tournament runs. It should be when you've won national titles in 2016 and 2018. Dixon was phenomenal. They're balanced. The win over Memphis never stood a chance in that game, But the win
That was
over
bad, man. Memphis, how about this? I've never seen this before, Fanta. Memphis went on a 21-0 run. And at the end of the run, they were still down by 14 points.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about that. So agree with you. That's how the Villanova Maryland game went.
Yeah.
Maryland at one point had gone on like a 16-0 run. They were within 20. So Villanova lost to Penn, and in the ensuing 11 days, racked up 4 wins over top 60 KenPom teams, dog walked Maryland and Memphis, beat Carolina. Like, if you actually look at the Big East and you look at the quantification of wins, Villanova has the most quality wins in the league.
Yep.
The most.
Yep.
Okay, Marquette's got the best one. My winner, though, is not in the Big East. Okay? My winner is in the Big 12. Oklahoma. The Sooners won the Rady Children's Invitational. Porter Moser's team was picked to finish 12th. 12th in the 14-team Big 12. A massive win over USC in which Otego comes up with a game-winning putback just shy of the buzzer to win the Sooners the game. This is after a game in which they D'd up Iowa. They defended the hell out of Iowa. Iowa could not hit a shot, but Iowa was capable. Oklahoma defended really well. And as we wake up this morning, the team that was picked to finish 12th in the Big 12 has a right to be in that top 25. They're KenPom 23rd. They're top 33 in offense and defense. And guys, by having a couple of sophomores, okay, Milo Suzan, Otego but by cleaning up in the transfer portal, John Hughley was a good player at Pitt. Like, John Hughley had a very good run at Pittsburgh. That was a really nice pickup. He's physical. He makes plays. He's a winner. He defends. And Javian McCullum, very quietly, was a bucket getter at Siena. McCullum had a really nice run for Carmen Massarello and Siena. That was a great get, a very quietly great get by Porter Moser. But this is one of Moser's best coaching jobs. Will it sustain? Will it last the whole year?
I think it will. You know what I wrote down for them, Fana?
I like them. They're a winner.
I wrote down they give me some Arizona vibes in the sense that you have a really good coach that went out and got more athletic. They got more versatile. He added, you mentioned McCullum. I think a big one was getting Jalen Moore from, was it Georgia Tech, right, T.O.? He was at Georgia Tech? I think he was at Georgia Tech.
It was at Georgia Tech. Sophomore last
Georgia Tech. Yeah.
85.
Did you say Virginia Tech or Georgia Tech? Yeah, Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
so
6'5". Yeah.
They got more athletic. They're more switchable. They got some more shot makers. And here's the most impressive part. Otego Owe is definitely taking a step forward. Yes. Everybody thought in the offseason that Milos Uzan was going to be the biggest breakout star in that program. And we haven't even seen him really kind of figure it out this year. I'm in on Oklahoma as a tournament team.
And the Big 12 has shown in the first 3 weeks that they're number one, and there's not even a debate for it. I mean, there's not, guys. There's not. Guys, they have 8 teams in the top 31 of KenPom.
So does the SEC. That's the only argument I'd make. And look, I probably would lean towards the Big 12, but I think that if I really wanted to, I can make an argument the SEC is the second best. All right.
Oh, I think you're right. I think you're right on that.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry that I can make an argument the SEC is the best, but I agree that it's the Big 12. And then I also think it's like those are the top 2. We don't need to get in that argument again. We don't need to go down. We don't need to rank the bench conferences again. All right, let's go to
the SEC has a clear bottom though. The SEC, like the Big 12, the worst team right now in the Big 12 analytically.
UCF.
Yeah, is UCF, who's down in a bad way.
Yeah, they're down bad. All right, biggest loser from Feast Week. Can I go first on this one, guys?
Yeah.
Arkansas. I'm worried about
if nothing else, the loss of Trayvon Mark at the end of the game.
Yeah. So one, you lose the guy that had kind of turned into, and it doesn't sound like it's something serious, right? Like the reports coming out of there.
It didn't look that was kind of a strange thing because it didn't look. It looked like he got a stinger, landed on his left side, and he was scared to move it. And I've gotten those; they hurt. Yes. But I the fact that they carted him off, I was like, man, he must have just had a freak accident. It didn't look bad. That was the weird thing about it. Sorry, go ahead. I interrupted.
It doesn't. It looks. he landed right for the people that didn't see. He kind of went up in the air. He got taken out off balance and basically landed like right on his lower back, flat on his back from pretty high
on his
in the
left
air.
hip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got carted off. It seemed like it was something that was going to be serious. He went to the hospital. He was released. I haven't seen an update in a couple days from them, but hopefully he'll be back soon because they need him. He had 34 points against North Carolina on like 13 for 17 shooting. But he was their go-to guy. And Caleb Battle was like the other guy, and he hasn't really been that efficient. And Devo Davis doesn't look like he's taking the step forward that we thought he would. And Trevon Brazile is, hasn't been scoring the ball well. And looks like he's still coming off the ACL. I thought that team would be better a little bit quicker. They are not quite there.
That's kind of their deal, though.
Yeah, they figure things like Musk puts these people together and figures it out in December and January, and once he has it in February and March, and they make their run. So they still have the upside, but I was less impressed than I thought I would be heading into that event.
Yeah,
they're a loser, but it's the team that lost to them that's the biggest loser. Stanford. I mean, Stanford placed last in the battle for Atlantis. It's not a secret that Jared Haas is firmly on the hot seat. I mean,
I don't think they care enough.
I don't like to. Yeah, it's going to be time for a change there. The Cardinal are going to make a change after this season. They're entering. It's also the right time to make a change because you're entering a new conference.
Agreed.
So you got to change things up. You're 3-4. First off, you should have beat Arkansas. They had the game won.
Yeah,
they had that game won. They were up by 4 in the final minute of regulation, but then they realized they were Stanford and peed down their leg. I mean, that was just a joke of a close to regulation by the Cardinal. You got to be better. I mean, I was watching the game, all right, and Arkansas had no business winning that game. And you guys are right. Like, I have concerns about Arkansas. I think that they'll figure it out, but they were playing individualistic basketball in Atlantis. It was a lot of let me take you one-on-one. And sometimes that works, and they play that sometimes, but it wasn't working. But then you followed up, you lose to Michigan, okay, who might be the most confusing team in the sport. But then you come back, you play Northern Iowa, and you lost by 22. You lost, you got ran, or I hope Stanford players that you played at the tables, because that was
they did. Hey, I bet you they did.
Yeah, well, guess what? You lost by 22 in fitting fashion because that's a bust.
Yeah, and they're Stanford guys. So the reason they were probably out late is because they probably won counting cards. They're Stanford guys. Yeah. They're smart enough.
Well, they shot 5 for 26 from 3, and Jared Bynum just wasn't good enough. Providence transfer, he just hasn't been good enough for them.
Yeah, you nailed my other biggest loser, Fanta, which was me for being all in on Michigan after they won 3 games against basically.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you though. Like, I can't blame you for that.
I blame myself. You know what? I blame myself. I fell into the trap. All they need now is Juwan Howard to come back and save the day.
I liked it. They absolutely obliterated St. John's
in the Garden.
Yeah, and when you watch that, you're like, St. John's is crap. They're crap. And then St. John's went back. They took 2 or 3. They just, they won by 46 the other day. Like, they look they're getting better every day. But yeah, I mean, it's just, who else is disappointing? I know they're shorthanded, but West Virginia's been disappointing. They went 0 for 2 down in Fort Myers. Disappointment hey, you know who else I was disappointed by, honestly, T.O.? I thought Virginia would play better.
That's where I was going.
Virginia. Take it away, T.O. Talk to us about UVA.
No, that's where I'm at. I was going to say Virginia as well. I said them last night on the Boeheim cast that if you were able to check it out, it was fun. It was great. He told some stories. We got him going. No, I think Virginia, just simply because, you lay an egg against a Wisconsin team that's like-minded in their approach. And then in your rebound game down in Fort Myers, you play a West Virginia team that's so shorthanded, it's insane. They've gone through all kinds of stuff in the offseason, and you're being looked at to be one of these guys or one of these teams that kind of keep the ACC's metrics afloat. You can't lose by 20-something points to Wisconsin. And Wisconsin's not even playing with Connor Esigian, who's in a tiff with his coach or whatever's going on over there. I have no idea what's going on over there. I don't know if it's a tiff. I don't know what's going on. So let me just clear that up. But that to me was disappointing because those metrics struggle whenever you don't beat the teams you're supposed to. And West Virginia only beating them by 2 is not a good look. And look, Virginia is not a team. That style is not a team to where you're going to be able to, 1, run away from teams, and 2, you're not going to be able to come back from a deficit because it's hard playing at that pace. And you have to get out of what you do in order to catch back up. So you have to play well from the jump if you're Virginia, and that leaves you susceptible. And you play Wisconsin on a neutral site and you get your doors blown off. And then you play West Virginia, who's not nearly as talented as you are, and you only win by 2. Virginia is the biggest loser in my part. They're the biggest ones in my book.
Is that fixable? Like, can they come back? Like, my question is, do they just have like a bad couple days, or is this kind of who they are?
Oh, well, I think the answer to that question might be next Wednesday, the 29th, or this Wednesday, the 29th. They play Texas A&M at home. Can you kind of regroup and get your win? Because after that, it gets pretty easy up until December 19th. They play Syracuse at home, which, by the way, I'm surprised at how quick Syracuse has picked up pretty solid man principles. They're not there yet. They're still figuring it out under Red, but surprised there. Texas A&M, though, that's going to be a monster test for them. I'm interested to see how that happens.
Yep.
In the first field of 68 tip-off, 3 of the preeminent mid-major programs in the country, 3 of the best coaches. November 30th, Liberty versus FAU. December 1st, Liberty versus Charleston. December 2nd, Charleston versus FAU.
3 up-and-coming programs come together in a very, very creative entity.
There's a reason we're called the Field of 68, right? We want to cover all of college basketball.
We are calling it the Field of 68 tip-off.
And this is where we got to talk about Vaulted. Vaulted is an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. It is the place you can store your own predictions forever. And by using the Vaulted Challenge feature, you can prove that you're smarter than your enemies, like Jeff Goodman. Go and download the Vaulted app, VLTED. Get the free trial and store your predictions and join daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. All right, we're gonna play a quick little game here.
All right.
We got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
It's called Hot or Not. I have written down 5 hot takes that I have from the last week of college basketball. And I want your guys' opinion on whether these are hot takes, whether they're good takes, whether they're smart takes, whether they're dumb takes, whether I need to find something else to do with my time. So we're going to start with this, and we're going to head up to the Legends Classic. It was at the Barclays Center, where Baylor beat Oregon State pretty handily and then beat a Florida team that I've actually been relatively impressed by. Hot or not, Baylor is the most talented team in the Big 12.
Most talented?
Most talented team in the Big 12.
Not hot. It's not hot. Hot is extreme. This is not hot. They are in there. They have the ability. I mean, the fact that you could play through Jacoby Walter here and there, you could play through Ray J. Dennis, and then you could play through Jalen Bridges. It's interchangeable. It's interchangeable. And honestly, like, Houston has the most talented backcourt, but it's close. I mean, you could argue Baylor on another day. I can't wait to watch Houston and Baylor play. And you still have Kansas, who has the best all-around player in Dickinson, but I'm more down on Kansas than you guys are, and that's for maybe a separate pod. But the things that we talked about last week then arose in their game against Marquette. But to me, it's not hot. It's that take's not hot because Baylor can ride a different guy on a given night, and Ray J. Dennis was fantastic. He was absolutely fantastic against Florida on a team that has a top 5, top 10 pick in Walter. Yes, it's not a hot take.
It's a take. I'm sitting here. I'm looking down through everything. They are just as talented as Houston. I think top to bottom, they're just as talented as Texas. I think as far as college players are concerned, I just, as unlikable as he is, I think Hunter Dickinson's the best player in that league, best college player in that league.
He is.
But as a whole, I think Baylor. Lukewarm take, but not to a point to where I wouldn't be able to just put it down if it were a cup of tea.
So here's the way that I would justify it. Jacoby Walter is a top 10 pick. I think Yves Missy is a first-round pick, whether that's this year, next year, maybe the year after. I think that Ray J. Dennis has proven himself to be a terrific college point guard. And I think that what we saw out of him against Florida is going to be what we see out of him for most of the rest of the season, as opposed to, kind of what we saw against Auburn. Jalen Bridges is a 6'8" athletic dude that is shooting 55% from three right now. And I don't think that we've necessarily seen the best out of Jay Nunn, Langston Love, your boy Miro Little. T.O., I love what this team has. And I think that there is if you are a betting man and you can go type into BetMGM right now and get them as the third best team in the Big 12, then that is there is some value on taking them to win the Big 12 this season. I don't think that that's necessarily crazy. All right, take number 2. We're heading back to the Big East on this one. We didn't talk about it for biggest winners in Feast Week, but I think Colorado State, there's an argument to be made, was the single biggest winner of anybody in that conference. If you listen to the Mountain West Insider podcast, we had Nico Medved on there. They beat Creighton by 21. Trey Alexander was 1 for 16 from the floor. He made his first shot in that game. Baylor Shireman, Baylor Shireman sprained his ankle at the end, so I don't want to go too hard on him, but Stephen Ashworth, Baylor Shireman, Trey Alexander were frankly terrible in that game. So here's my take, is that Creighton, we have to take them out of the category of potential national title contenders. And the reason I say that is because if you can limit what they do in transition and you can take them out of what they want to run, they don't have anybody that can get you something easy unless it's coming out of offense or out of transition. Trey Alexander does not necessarily have the athletic ability to beat that first line of defense if you have a good defender on him. Stephen Ashworth is not quite a point guard at the Big East level. And Baylor Shireman is kind of like a combo, right? So you don't really have a guy that can make life easy for everybody else. You have Greg McDermott sets and you have transition. And if you don't have that, then they become a team that is relatively easy to guard. Is that a hot take? Fan, I'll go to you first on that one.
That is a hot take. That is a hot take. They had a bad day, a very bad day, an awful day. Colorado State had much to do with it. A heap of credit belongs to Nico Medved for the game plan of really making Creighton execute in the half court and making them uncomfortable. Now, they made one of the best shot makers in the sport uncomfortable in Trey Alexander. Isaiah Stevens is also this might be a hot take, but I don't think he's a sleeper All-American candidate nationally. He is that good. He is that good of a player. Part of a Mountain West that, yes, could send 4 teams to the NCAA tournament, but they rebounded the ball well. And Stevens is just elite. He's an elite playmaker. And Medved's a really good coach. Like Nico Medved's not going to be at Colorado State forever because he's going to move up. He's going to get a bigger job, and he should. He deserves it. But is it a hot take to say Creighton's out of the conversation at the top of the country? It is a hot take. They had a bad loss and an awful showing. Let's revisit this next week because I think they play in one of the most intriguing games in the country this week when they are at Nebraska on Sunday. Nebraska, who on our hot take show, I said will dance this year, and I still believe it. I think they're the Northwestern of the Big Ten this year. They've got veterans. Keisei Tobanaga's a stud, but beyond that, with Wilcher and company, good supporting cast. Let's see if Creighton can handle that test in Lincoln. You lose that game in Nebraska, Rob, your take ain't so hot. But I'm going to give them one pass. Sometimes you have a crappy day, like my Cleveland Browns had yesterday. Sometimes you have a crap sandwich. Creighton's leftovers were bad. Let's give them a pass, and let's see if they can recover. I'm asking Terrence Oglesby to give them one pass.
Yep, I'm giving them a pass. The same way I gave Florida Atlantic a pass whenever they played Bryant. So, and you saw how quickly that changed things for Dusty May and company. Trey Alexander can get past that first line of defense. It's just since Ashworth is there, he's been relied on more to score. I think they can find ways to get downhill. I think Trey Alexander can be that guy. So I'm going to go cold take. I think cold take on that one.
Fair enough. We'll see what comes to fruition there. For the record, I really like that team. I really like those players, and I want it to work out. So I will be rooting for Creighton unless they are playing The UConn Huskies.
How about they haven't played anybody though? Nebraska hasn't played anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody.
So that's a litmus test game for them. They've played Lindenwood, Florida A&M, Rider, Stony Brook, Oregon State, which might as well be a WAC team, and Duquesne and Cal State Fullerton.
Hey,
so
no Duquesne slander here. All right, we do not slander Duquesne on this podcast.
I'm not slandering Duquesne. Sorry.
Yeah, they're the Duquesne. Day Grant, stud. Jimmy Clark the third, stud. All right, take number three. Please. Take number 3. The best transfer on Arizona, and the guy that is going to change what this program can be, and the reason why this team can get to the Final Four is not your boy Caleb Love. It's the homie Kashad Johnson, the second leading scorer on that roster, the leading rebounder on that roster, the best shot blocker on that roster, and a guy who, by the way, is currently, as of today, shooting better from 3 than the homie Caleb Love. Kashad Johnson is the game-changing piece that Arizona needed to be able to compete for a national championship. T.O., is that a hot take?
Is he the second best player on that team?
Best transfer.
Basically, he's more important than Caleb Love.
Okay, so let's dumb this down. I disagree.
Okay.
That's a cold take, and the reason being, I think there's going to be times you have to create offense. Defense is always going to be there. In the tournament, you have to find a way to get some offense. That's where Caleb Love is valuable. You've seen what Caleb Love can do by bringing North Carolina to a national championship game. Let's be honest. Sure. He brought them to a national championship game because he was awesome. You also saw the bad side of Caleb Love. But to say he's the second most important transfer or the most important transfer, I think is wrong, just simply because of the volatility that Caleb Love is and the ceiling that you can get with Caleb Love. So I would say cold take. Very good player, not the most important transfer.
What I would say to that is, and look, what you're saying,
I'm changing the question to politicize this a little bit.
Yeah, you are. But I think the game against Michigan State really emphasized what Caleb Love can bring to the table, right? Because I think Arizona was up like 16 in the first half, and the Michigan State really locked down defensively in the second half, made life really difficult for Arizona to be able to get good shots. And then there was about like a 5-possession stretch where Caleb Love got to the lane twice, had a couple layups, had an assist, and then missed a layup and got a tip in. And it kind of like, it broke things open because he was the only guy that could actually go out and create something on his own, which, maybe he could transfer to Creighton too at some point, by the way. But I think like that's really important. And I'm not trying to minimize what Caleb Love is, but I think the reason why Arizona is one of 4 teams right now that is top 10 in the country in offensive and defensive efficiency when they struggled defensively last year is the presence of Kashad Johnson. Fanta, where do you stand?
Well, I think that it's an accurate take in his importance on the team because of a winning perspective. He knows how to win, and he's producing winning plays for Arizona late in these games. I mean, he did it at Duke. He did it against Michigan State. Guys, if Kashad Johnson's not on the floor for Arizona, Michigan State beats Arizona. That's how much I thought Johnson meant to that game in the last 4 minutes of the game. Michigan State played the best half they've played all season in the second half against Arizona. They just ran out of gas. And by the way, fellas, if Michigan State doesn't beat Baylor on December 16th in Detroit, Michigan State's going to go into Big Ten play. Now, they have a couple Big Ten games to start because the Big Ten actually has conference games this upcoming weekend. Michigan State will be in conference play with 0 quality wins. 0.0.
Wild. It's wild when you think about it like that.
And the Big Ten's not as great as it's been. That's concerning. Okay. That's like, hey, you'll make it, or I think you'll make it. But you're like a 7-10, 8-9 type of game when we had this team as a potential national champion.
Hey, hold on. They played Nebraska before they played Baylor. You can't say that's a big game for Creighton and Nebraska and then be like, well, they don't play anybody until Baylor. Can't do that, Fanta.
I did not say that.
That's what's that like.
What you're seeing right here is Fanta's anti-Husker bias coming out.
Wow.
Finally, it's been exposed.
That whole flat state's going to be pissed at you.
No, they won't. Those people don't have mean bones in their body. They're some of the nicest people.
That's true.
Take a trip out there, and they are just the nicest folks out there. I can't wait to I'm Creighton and Nebraska fans. I'm coming your way at some point. I got to find a way there.
Fanta is now just trying to butter up the Nebraska fans that he just insulted.
I'm
on to your tricks, Fanta. I'm on to your tricks.
Let me tell you something. I am buttering them up because if I butter them up enough, I'm going to get 2 free cows, and that's all I want. So
that's it.
Let me tell you, it's medium rare, baby. Rob, Nebraska has red meat.
Yes, it does. They do have some. There's a reason why they're called Omaha steaks, right?
There's
a reason why. I actually got a couple of. This is not an ad. I got a couple of Omaha steaks and a couple of Omaha steaks Wagyu burgers sitting in the fridge right now that are going to be ready for consumption this week. Once I pretend that I'm not on my diet anymore. All right,
good point. It's the right take. I agree with you. Although where I disagree is because Caleb Love can, as good as he can be, is the other way around. That's why he's probably the most important. Because if he is bad, I don't want Tommy Lloyd to have to hitch his wagon to Love. And I don't think that'll be the case. I also just want to say that like Tommy Lloyd is 65-11 through 76 games as Arizona's head coach.
It's fucking ridiculous.
I think he's the most underrated coach in the country.
65-11 is insane your first 3 years of the program. All right. Take number 4. As of today, right? We talked about Baylor potentially being the most talented team in the Big 12, right? Do you guys know who the top 3 teams are on KenPom right now in the Big 12?
Yes.
Houston's at number 1.
Yep.
Kansas is at number 2.
Yep.
T.O., do you know who is at number 3 right now as of this very moment?
The 3-piece combo punching Cougars out there at BYU.
Yes, it is BYU. They are currently top 10 on KenPom. They are 6-0. They beat San Diego State at home. They beat Arizona State by 28 out in, was that in Vegas? I can't remember which that was.
Out in Vegas, the fight.
Yep. And then they turn
the Michelob Ultra Arena.
Yeah, the Michelob. Then they turn around and they beat NC State. By the way, the video of that fight is hilarious because 1, the dude punches the BYU guy, punches somebody while he's laying on the ground. 2, the guy gets up and the guy turns around and he's like, he's got to be an MMA fighter because he's just sitting there in his guard, right? He's got his legs up and he's got his hands ready to punch. And as the Arizona State player is getting ready to throw a fist at him, Mark Pope comes over and fucking textbook box out. Unbelievable box out. One of the best box outs I've ever seen. Mark Pope still got it, man. He can still play. Well, he can still box out.
Yeah.
They can. They're good.
They're fine.
Well, that was my hot take was going to be is that right now on KenPom, if BYU is a top 10 team, then I think that is maybe we need to not listen to KenPom for another month until we get to about Christmas.
That's right.
Yeah.
Give it time to catch up here.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're scoring the ball well. I mean,
they are.
They have.
They're look. Let's be clear. They are a very good team.
They have 7 players averaging 9 points or more per game.
I don't think they're a top 10 team in America.
No, they're not. They're not. But they should be ranked in the top 20 today.
I have them 13th. I think.
Yeah, I have them 12th.
Well, so let's phrase it like this. T.O., have you gotten a chance to watch much BYU?
No.
Okay,
I saw them last year. It's a lot of the same guys. They were good last year when I saw them battle for Atlantis. Like, I would have to see more. I have to see more. They're shooting the ball really, really well.
There it is.
What is it?
I put out the top 25. Kentucky 16th. I didn't really move them because they almost lost to St. Joe's at home. And question everything says Kentucky should be number 12 at the very lowest.
Whatever. All right. Yeah, BYU. We'll see. I'm not fully buying it yet, but I'm not fully not buying it yet. They're
getting the Big 12 bump, baby.
Big 12 bump. They're their first time. Well, they got Utah at Utah in what is a very intense rivalry on Saturday, December 9th.
Good game.
And then after that, like they'll get Baylor at Baylor on January 9th. So those are going to be the 2 kind of litmus tests for BYU. All right. Last one I got for you. You ready?
Yeah.
Not only is FAU back, FAU never left, baby. FAU's right here. FAU is ready to go. Did I steal that line from you, T.O.? You said it last night, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You stole it from me. That's not
never
a hot
left,
take at
baby.
all. Yeah, they never left. They played one game against Bryant where Earl Timberlake took the air out of the ball and they couldn't score, and they just had one guy stall the entire game. That's what happened. And then now they're getting healthy. They're still doing all the right things. They're still guarding. Goldens can compete with anybody. They never left. Don't worry. FAU, you're still very, very good. The seeding has to pan out perfectly to make another Final Four run. All of that's a given. That being said, it'll be a fun year in Boca.
Yep. Can I throw some stats at you real quick, Fanta? So
Maybe.
Elijah Martin in FAU's first 3 games when he was banged up, averaged 6.7 points, shot 19% from the floor, and was 4 for 16 from 3. Elijah Martin in 3 games in Orlando, averaged 18.3 points, shot 43% from 3, and was 10 for 25 from 3. Jalen Gaffney, right, with Nick Boyd banged up in 90 minutes in Orlando, averaged 11.7 points, 4.7 boards, and 4.7 assists with just 2 turnovers in 3 games as the starting point guard for FAU. That team's real, Fanta. They are real. I will go to my grave saying it.
They're real. They're real. You're allowed to have an off day right now. It stinks when you do, but they lost to Bryant, and it just goes to show you the current climate in this sport. It goes to also show you, like, when people say that they can't believe when somebody wins in March Madness, what are you talking about? These teams won their conferences or came damn close to winning their conferences. There's 360 plus teams in college basketball. So when you put the 68 best on the floor, Bryant's not one of the 68 best teams in the country. They're not even one of the best 100. Yeah, they beat FAU. It's basketball. Terrence played it, and Rob, you played it some, and I played the St. Chris Holiday Tournament. Actually got a double technical foul for kicking a kid in the head. We won in overtime. I don't care. Fact is, anything can happen.
Zero remorse.
Yeah, right. I don't have remorse. He called me pudgy, and he's an asshole. The fact is, anything can happen. It's college hoops. And FAU had a bad showing, and they're better off because of it. Because at the end of the day, John L. Davis and Elijah Martin didn't lose what they had. And Vlad Goalden, he went 7 for 7 against Virginia Tech. They beat Virginia Tech by 34. Virginia Tech will not get beat that bad again all season long. FAU's fine. The Owls are still hooting.
Hooting.
How long were you sitting on that line?
I was not.
That was good.
It just
man, that was
blurted
good.
out. They're hooting on. They're hooting on.
FAU never left, baby. FAU
never left.
FAU never left. Tio, that was a good line, man.
Yeah.
Listen, this has been the DTF podcast. This has been fun. Make sure you check us out. The Field of 68 tip-off is going to be happening down in Boca Raton. We have Florida Atlantic and Liberty, one of the best games in college basketball this week on Thursday night, 6 p.m. That'll be on ESPNU. We have Liberty Charleston at 6 p.m. on Flow Sports on Friday from Boca Raton. And then on Saturday at 6 p.m., it'll be FAU and it'll be Charleston. 6 o'clock, that again will be on ESPNU. We'll have pregame shows there all 3 nights. We will be doing After Dark live from there all 3 nights. So make sure you check it out. FAU Boca Raton. It's going to be fun. I can't wait to get to the beach, man. I'm going to put my toes in the sand. Maybe crack a Corona, listen to a little bit of Zach Brown,
Have a great time and watch UConn play Kansas.
Yes, we will. Then here's the kicker. On Friday night, we will be starting live at 11 p.m., which means the start of the show will be the end of the UConn-Kansas game live. I'll have to watch while hosting a show with Matt McCall and with Jeff Goodman. So if you want to see me stress my ass off while trying to do a live television show, tune in, watch.
I think this time, can't wait for that Friday. This time next week, gentlemen, you think we got stuff figured out? I think we're going to all be circling back next Monday, and we're going to be saying, what on earth is going on? I think these 2 conference challenges this week are going to produce some insane results.
That's part about this sport, Fanta. That's part about the sport. Listen, for John Fanta, for Terrence Oglesby, who has been dealing with let's just say house issues. That's why he keeps disappearing. He's not for the people that are watching this on YouTube.
He had a pipe burst.
Yeah.
I go to Disney on Ice last night with the kids, come back 6 o'clock, and it's shooting water to the roof in my bathroom.
That's
so I got
why
people
TL
walking in and out of my house constantly.
That's why he keeps leaving and looking out the shades. It's not because he's being stalked. It's not because he's in the crosshairs of like the FBI or anything. Like, you don't have anything to worry about. Teo's fine. He just has some repair people at his house, making sure that he doesn't have to entirely redo his kitchen and his bathroom.
Yeah, so, unreal.
Yeah, this has been the DTF podcast. Housing advice for free.